There are few more cherished beliefs in modern medicine than the idea that saturated fat will clog your arteries and kill you, or that statins will save you from this fate. These two beliefs are so ingrained in medicine that they're beyond questioning. The problem is that science that cannot be questioned is not science. It's dogma. And dogma can be dangerous. This is the evidence pyramid, also known as the research hierarchy. It ranks study designs by their risk of bias. Study designs most likely to be biased are down the bottom. The poorest level of evidence within this hierarchy is that of expert opinion. In essence, expert opinion is the reliance on eminent individuals or organisations to deign what they consider to be the truth. And another phrase for this is eminence-based medicine, basically relying on the credentials rather than facts, taking whatever we've been told on faith. Eminence-based medicine is more about the messenger than the message. This is a tweet from a very well-credentialed cardiologist, and when he and I had differing views on a topic, he resorted to an appeal to authority, a case of simply, trust me, I'm an expert, without any scientific substantiation. The problem is, blind faith in any authority can lead us astray. And by authority, I also include bodies and institutions who often publish official guidelines and commentaries. And it's easier than you think to be misled by eminence-based medicine, even for doctors. I received this email from a family doctor with more than 30 years clinical experience, and even she was having trouble deciphering the science on statins. Her medical group was pushing her to increase her judicious prescribing of statins. Basically, they wanted every single one of her diabetic patients to take a statin, irrespective of their cholesterol level. So she decided to look at the science, and she came across this, an expert commentary claiming that taking statins would help her diabetic patients to live longer, that it would afford them a mortality benefit. And this doctor asked for my opinion as to whether this expert opinion was reliable. And I was immediately curious because I've extensively reviewed the literature on statins, and I wasn't aware of any research that proved a significant mortality benefit. So I went to the evidence cited within this expert commentary, and they cited 6 studies that supported this notion that taking a statin would help a diabetic patient live longer. Now, 3 of these 6 references were cited on the basis that they specifically proved this effect. The problem was, none of these 3 studies actually reached statistical significance. That is, these findings could be explained by random chance. Hardly reliable evidence. However, things got even worse when I looked at the remaining 3 studies. These didn't even look at mortality. Now, it's obvious that a study can only make findings about something which it actually looks at. Now, it beggars belief that experts would make mistakes with all 6 of their supporting citations. Literally, none of the studies they cited in support of the mortality claim in actual fact did so. Charitably speaking, they must have been more confused than a chameleon in a bucket of Skittles. And dietary guidelines too are another form of expert evidence, except with the backing of governments, they can wield immense influence. The problem is, our dietary guidelines were born of bad science and still have not recovered. The origins of our modern dietary guidelines date back to 1977 with a US Select Committee meeting on nutrition, which was convened by this man you see here, Senator McGovern. And while ostensibly this committee was set up to evaluate the science, when you mix science with politics, you get politics. And indeed, that's what we got. Robert Olson, a leading scientist of the day, pleaded with Senator McGovern to allow for a complete review of the science. But this is Senator Olson cajoling, pleading.
I argue that senators don't have the luxury that a research scientist has of waiting until every last shred of evidence is in.
Basically, McGovern said to Olson, would like to, but we're politicians, we don't do science. And McGovern's refusal to allow a proper scientific process, I believe, was pivotal in the end result. You see, even in 1977, there were more than 70 randomised controlled trials against the notion of restricting dietary saturated fat. And despite this evidence, failure of the scientific process, driven by a political agenda, resulted in the production of dietary goals for the United States, which recommended the avoidance of saturated fat.